It was raining when they pulled Kaitlyn from the water. She barely remembered the scream that echoed through her throat. Her twin sister, Kara, was gone, drowned. The media called it a tragic accident. The police called it case closed. Kaitlyn, however, called it impossible. Identical in every way, except in choices. Where Kara was impulsive, Kaitlyn was grounded. Still, they had grown up inseparable, finishing each other's sentences. That last night, they had argued. Kaitlyn had walked away. Hours later, Kara was dead. Now, 3 weeks later, Kaitlyn stood in the hallway of their shared apartment. Most of Kara's things were gone, taken by their mother or boxed away. But the photo frame next to Kaitlyn's bed buzzed. A notification. It shouldn't buzz. It was just a digital frame. With trembling hands, she swiped through the loaded images. One stopped her cold. It was a picture of her at the pier from the night Kara died. Only it wasn't her. She was at home that night. Or was she? More pictures followed. Grainy shots of her walking through the dark streets. One showed a silhouette standing behind her. Another showed a gaping shadow in the water. Attached to the final image was a message. Wrong twin died. Kaitlyn's knees buckled. Was Kara's death an accident? Or was someone trying to kill her and got the wrong girl? And if Kara hadn't drowned by chance? Who wanted Kaitlyn dead? Sleep escaped Kaitlyn that night. Her mind replayed the images over and over. Photos of her that she didn't remember being taken, doing things she couldn't recall. What haunted her most wasn't just the shock of being watched. It was the realization that she questionably could have been there. Or was that Kara? Their resemblance had always been indistinguishable, down to birthmarks, voice, even the way they rubbed their temples when anxious. But only a twin knew the little differences. Kara had a tiny chipped tooth. Kaitlyn didn't slouch as much. They wore different perfumes. When people confused them, they let it slide. It was a game they played sometimes, swapping clothes, playing tricks. But this didn't feel like a trick. Kaitlyn sat at her desk under the dim lamp, staring at the message again. Wrong twin died. No number, no sender, just a Bluetooth prompt a frame had picked up, which meant the sender had been close. Inside the apartment even. Her stomach churned. Suddenly, a knock at the door. Kaitlyn's heart punched her ribs. She crept cautiously and opened it a sliver. It was Liam, her boyfriend. Ex, technically. They'd broken up a month before Kara's death, or rather, he drifted after years of closeness. She hadn't seen him since the funeral. Hey, he said, awkwardly rubbing his jaw. Can we talk? Her instinct screamed, not now, but his eyes were tired and familiar. Maybe he knew something. Maybe anyone close to Kara did. She nodded. They sat on the couch. Liam glanced around, clearly noticing the changes. It's clean. Weird without her, huh? Yeah, Kaitlyn replied, her voice hollow. Then she cut to the chase. Did you see Kara before it happened? He looked up, caught off guard. No, why? Kaitlyn hesitated. She hadn't yet told anyone about the photos. But then Liam added something strange. You came by my place that night, but you didn't say anything, just stared. I thought maybe you were just grieving. Kaitlyn's blood ran cold. I wasn't there, she said softly. Liam frowned. Kaitlyn, I looked right at you. No. Her voice grew shaky. Liam, that wasn't me. The silence between them thickened. He leaned forward. Then who was it? And for the first time, Kaitlyn asked the terrifying question aloud. What if Kara didn't die? The next morning, Kaitlyn couldn't shake the nightmare from her mind. Kara, drenched and shivering, was whispering her name at the foot of the bed. Her face was bloated, her eyes milky, but her voice came out exactly like Kaitlyn's. You're in my place. You're in my life. She jolted awake, gasping. Was her mind unraveling? Grief had its way of twisting thoughts, especially when it involved someone so close, someone you once shared a womb with. But this was more than grief. It reeked of manipulation and fear. She needed answers, real ones. That started with the body. She dressed quickly and took a cab to the Edgewater County Coroner's office. The receptionist looked up, unimpressed by Kaitlyn's urgency. I need the autopsy report for Kara Maddox, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Are you immediate family? The woman asked. I'm her twin, Kaitlyn replied, drawing out the last word like a badge of identification. That close enough? The woman typed something into the system before frowning. Says here the report's sealed. Requested confidential by a third party. Confidential? Sealed? Can you tell me who requested that? Kaitlyn asked, stunned. I'm afraid not, the receptionist said. But you might try Dr. Harmon. He was the attending coroner. He's off duty today, though. Kaitlyn left feeling like her stomach was made of glass and someone had just tapped it hard. She called 3 more times that afternoon, trying to reach Dr. Harmon, but there was no reply. She even considered calling her mom, but their relationship had been fractured for months, especially after Kara's death. No, it just felt impossible. The unanswered question gnawed at her. What if it wasn't Kara in that coffin? The funeral had been closed casket. The official story was due to water damage, decomposition. No one questioned it then. But someone should have. Later that evening, she sat in her room with Kara's memory box, an old shoebox where they used to keep secrets, notes, inside jokes. She hadn't touched it since the service. As she lifted the lid, a faint smell of lavender, their childhood scent, drifted up. Inside were photos, notes, and tucked into a hidden corner, folded tightly, was a piece of yellow paper. Kara's handwriting. I think they're watching me. I don't know who they are, but someone followed me home yesterday. I thought it was Kaitlyn at first, but she was inside the whole time. If something happens to me, check the camera. The truth is in the files. Kaitlyn's fingers trembled. What camera? What files? Was this paranoia or a desperate cry for help before it was too late? She opened her laptop and began digging through Kara's folders. Most were empty, but in one buried system folder labeled Temp Backup 3, there was a series of video files, time-stamped over the last 2 months. She opened one. It showed Kara in the mirror, speaking. If you're watching this, Kate, then I was right. I wasn't the target. You were. And they're going to switch us, whether we like it or not. Kaitlyn froze. They're going to switch us? What did that mean? In the reflection behind Kara, a figure moved. Someone else was there. And Kaitlyn finally realized, whatever this plan was, it had started long before Kara died. Kaitlyn replayed the video in disbelief. Kara looked pale, nervous, nothing like her usual defiant self. Her shoulders were hunched, her voice rushed, like she was trying to record something in the little time she had left. They're going to switch us. Kaitlyn clutched her forehead. The phrase looped in her mind. The idea was insane, like something out of a conspiracy theory forum. But Kara wouldn't lie to her. Not like this. And someone had sent those surveillance photos. Someone had faked being her. Or Kara had faked being her. And now one of them was gone. Or was she? She examined the rest of the files. Most were short clips, paranoid flogging-style videos, dim lighting, Kara whispering, footsteps in the background that didn't belong to her. Then she opened one that was different. Surveillance footage, a camera angle from inside their apartment. Low res, maybe from a hidden webcam. In it, 2 women stood facing each other. Identical. Kaitlyn's breath caught. Her. Anne. The timestamp was from 3 days before Kara's death, or disappearance. Kaitlyn leaned in. One of the twins stood stiffly, while the other held something out. A phone? No audio file accompanied the clip. But what jarred her most wasn't what they were doing. It was how they moved. Kaitlyn recognized herself, the belt she wore, the way she stood. And herself was the one backing away from the other. Wait, no, something was off. Kaitlyn narrowed her eyes and realized the other girl wasn't Kara. It looked like her, perfectly like her, but slightly wrong, like a version too precise, too stiff. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. A chill slid down her spine. What if it wasn't just a doppelganger, but a deep fake? An edited video meant to mess with her head. She needed help. She called Mason, Kara's old college friend and a digital forensics geek. They hadn't talked since the funeral, but she hoped the shared grief might be enough. Mason, it's Kaitlyn. I need you to look at something, some old video files Kara stored. There was a pause. Then, where did you get them? Her backup folder. I found a note. She was scared. She thought someone was watching her. Send it to me, he said, his tone changing. Right now. 20 minutes later, her phone buzzed. Mason, Kaitlyn, this clip, it's been altered. Kaitlyn, so it's a fake? No, it's a real video, with a deep fake edited into it. Someone inserted a fake Kara over an original person, but the creepy part? The original person was wearing your clothes. Kaitlyn dropped her phone. Someone had filmed her and replaced the real Kara with a fake one, which meant who exactly had died. Even worse, who was still pretending to be her. Kaitlyn stood in the middle of her apartment, her skin prickling. That video confirmed it. Someone had tampered with her life, her memories, her reality. Her sister had known, maybe even tried to warn her, but Kaitlyn hadn't been listening until now. She moved through the rooms slowly, inspecting each wall, each vent, each corner, feeling ridiculous and terrified at the same time. If someone had been watching them, filming them, there had to be a way they got the footage. Hidden cameras? A planted microphone? Paranoia seeped into her bones. That's when she saw it. Behind the bookshelf in Kara's old bedroom, a hairline crack in the drywall. A spot where the paint had flaked slightly. Something behind the wall didn't sit flush. She tugged at the shelf with growing desperation, finally shifting it just enough to shine her phone light into the gap. She gasped. A crawl space. No, a hidden interior wall. Narrow, dark, barely wide enough for someone to move through, but lived in. Nestled inside was a small mattress, wrappers from food, half-burnt candles, notebooks scrawled in Sharpie. And most horrifying of all, photos. Printed copies of the same surveillance images she'd seen in the digital frame. Only these were older, and went way back. Some were from college, some from the lake house, even one at the hospital when they were 13. All of Kaitlyn. Whoever lived here had been watching her for years. She flipped through the notebook pages, phrases etched over and over again. She doesn't deserve that life. She always wanted to be me. She's not the real one. Switch us back. Switch us back. Kaitlyn stumbled back, her breath ragged. Suddenly, a crash came from the kitchen. She spun around, her heart nearly leaping out of her chest. She crept toward the door, and then a blur darted past the hallway. A girl, the same height, same build, pale, barefoot. Kaitlyn screamed. "Who the hell are you?" she yelled, chasing after her, but the girl had already disappeared, slipped away like smoke. She called the cops. A patrol came, did a lazy sweep, found nothing. They said there were no signs of forced entry and they couldn't file a report without actual assault or theft. Could be post-trauma hallucinations, one officer offered. But Kaitlyn knew what she saw. That girl wasn't some shadow or thief. She looked exactly like Kara, or worse, like her. Mason called shortly after. I ran the metadata on all the video files, Kate. One in particular, file 38. It was never saved by Kara's laptop. It came from a third device. How is that possible? She whispered. Because someone cloned her backup system and kept uploading to it after her death, Mason replied. That means someone else has access. Someone alive. Can you trace it? Mason hesitated. It's bouncing through too many proxies. But the last ping came from inside your building. Kaitlyn felt like throwing up. Not only had someone been pretending to be her sister, they were closer than she ever imagined. Watching, listening, maybe living right next to her. Kaitlyn stood in front of the door like it was a coffin waiting to swallow her up. Room 3B, the apartment directly across the hall from hers, the one that always seemed unoccupied. No name on the mailbox, no sound, no scent of cooking, just silence for months, maybe years. Most people assumed it was empty or used for storage by the landlord. But Mason's trace led right here. She raised her hand to knock, hesitated, then pressed her ear to the wood. Nothing, but then, faintly, something shifted. A small creak, like someone lightly pressed against a floorboard. She knocked once, twice, still nothing. She reached for the knob, locked. She backed away, reaching for her phone to text Mason, but then remembered something her sister used to say. 3B's key is stupid. Once I opened it with a bobby pin. She retrieved one from the drawer, bent it the way she'd seen Kara do on hair days, and worked it into the lock. Her heart was pounding so hard she could barely focus. Click! The door swung open a crack. Inside was total darkness. She stepped inside and closed the door softly behind her. As her eyes adjusted to the gloom, her breath hitched. The walls were lined with photos, not just printed ones, full-scale, wallpaper-style prints. Her at school, her crying, her asleep, her smiling at Liam, her sneaking into the kitchen for a midnight snack. Thousands of images, in progressive order, wrapping the entire space. There were video monitors too, some live, showing hallway cams, street footage, even a hidden angle of her own bedroom. She stumbled back. Whoever lived here had been documenting her entire life. But then came the true horror. In one corner of the room stood a whiteboard, covered in plans, date charts, photos of both her and Kara, labeled not with their names, but with codes. Subject A, stable. Subject B, fragmented. Project switch, progress, nearly complete. In the bottom corner, scrawled, almost as an afterthought, only one can remain. Identity must be earned. She rifled through the folders pinned beneath the board. Stuff from a research lab, neurogenetics, facial mapping, psychological bifurcation theories. This wasn't obsession. This was a program. Someone had been conducting an experiment. And then she found something worse. A thumb drive taped under a table. On it, dozens of video files. One was labeled The Original. She played it. Kaitlyn and Kara, age 9, in a lab, wires hooked to their heads, a voice off camera. She's adapting faster than her sister. Should we push the diverging personality? Another video, Kara screaming at a mirror, chanting, "I'm not like her, I'm not like her." Then one titled, December Evaluation, Kara Error. No video, just audio. A voice that sent chills down Kaitlyn's spine. Kara's file is corrupted. Too much overlap with Kaitlyn. We may need a clean reset. Clone, if necessary. Phase 3 begins soon. Clone. Kaitlyn felt the room tilt around her. Reset? Were they lab experiments? Memories flashed, childhood blanks. Moments their mother couldn't explain. Dreams that felt too real. Hospital visits they were never supposed to remember. Had they been made to be identical? Suddenly, footsteps behind her. She turned, and standing in the doorway was herself. Not Kara, herself. Same clothes, same face, same scar above the brow. But the eyes were not hers. They were dark, hungry. The other Kaitlyn smiled. Funny, the doppelganger whispered. I was just about to visit your apartment. Kaitlyn froze in the doorway of room 3B. The girl standing before her looked perfect. Same posture, same slim figure, same freckle just beneath the left eye. Everything about her was Kaitlyn, including the way she tilted her head, like she already knew what Kaitlyn would do before she did it. But what made Kaitlyn's skin crawl was the expression. It wasn't fear or surprise. It was ownership, like this version of her belonged here. What are you? Kaitlyn whispered. Her voice wobbled more than she wanted it to. The other Kaitlyn laughed softly. A better you. Then, without warning, the girl lurched forward with terrifying speed. Kaitlyn stumbled backward, knocking over a stack of file boxes. Pain shot through her elbow as it scraped against a table edge. As she scrambled to her feet, the imposter reached for something in her pocket. Scissors. Kaitlyn bolted for the hallway, slamming the door shut behind her, deadbolting it. Her hands trembled as she called Mason. She's here, she gasped. She looks just like me. There's a copy of me living across the hall. Kaitlyn, slow down. What do you mean, like a twin? No, I mean me, exactly me. She tried to attack me. There's files, Mason, labs, projects, something called Project Switch. The line went quiet. Mason? I know, he said quietly. I saw some of those logs. I didn't want to scare you before I knew for sure. Kaitlyn's breath caught in her throat. You knew? There are research papers buried in protected databases linked to your hospital records. You and Kara, you weren't just twins. You were flagged participants in something called HGP Variant Shadow. English, Mason. It's an offshoot of the Human Genome Project. Illegal, black budget stuff. Psychological modeling, identity transference, cloning trials. They were experimenting with dual personality development through mirrored upbringing. Kaitlyn sank to the floor. She remembered the strange therapy sessions when they were kids. Not with pediatricians, but with people in white coats asking weird questions. Asking which twin they'd save in a fire. Which one they'd trade for $1,000. Forcing them to play games that always ended in only one winner. Winning had never felt good. It had always felt like loss. What happened to Kara? Kaitlyn asked quietly. I think she found out, Mason said. That's what the files suggest. Project Switch wasn't just about creating identical identities. It was about replacing the weaker one. Killing her or burying her copy deep enough that no one noticed. No one ever noticed. Kaitlyn's voice cracked. Mason added something worse. And Kaitlyn, I don't think Kara was the only subject they made. Kaitlyn clenched her jaw. Her reflection was no longer something she could trust. Every photo, every memory, every time someone thought they saw her and she wasn't there. Maybe they had seen her. Her copy. That night, she didn't sleep. She duct-taped her door shut, moved furniture in front, slept with Mason on video call. But just before dawn, her phone buzzed. A new message. From Kara's number. From Kara's number. With a GPS location. Ridgeview Memory Institute. The summer camp the girls had been forced to attend when they were 7. Except Kaitlyn always had trouble remembering it. Because maybe she hadn't been the one who left there. Maybe she had been the one born there. The Ridgeview Memory Institute was nestled deep in the woods of Black Hollow, tucked away like a secret someone left behind. Officially, it was shut down 2 decades ago after a fire. Unofficially, pieces of it still functioned, quietly, discreetly, beneath layers of false permits and forgotten names. Kaitlyn had vague memories of it. Sterile, white hallways, friendly strangers with 2 white smiles, and puzzles labeled as games. But mostly, it was a blank in her mind, like someone had drawn curtains over every window in a house she once lived in. She arrived in the early afternoon, driving alone along the cracked highway, Mason on speaker. Are you sure about this? He asked for the 3rd time. I have to know the truth, Mason. I have to know what I am. Just promise me something, he said. Don't believe everything she tells you. The one who sent that message is playing their own game, Kaitlyn. You can't trust her. Kaitlyn gripped the steering wheel tighter. I don't trust her. I just need to understand her. The address led her to a rusted gate covered in vines. A faded sign clung to the fence. Ridgeview Behavioral Sciences. We don't change who you are. We reveal it. She climbed over, her boots crunching dried leaves, as she continued toward the stone building, swallowed by nature. Most of the windows were boarded, and vines had clawed themselves deep into the brick, like the forest was trying to reclaim the place entirely. Inside, dust hung in the air like memory. The smell, must, metal, and disinfectant still trapped in the walls. Hello? She called out, her voice echoing. I'm here. No answer, only the ping on her phone. A message from the same number. Downstairs. Kaitlyn made her way through the crumbling halls, shining her flashlight past peeling murals of cartoon animals and handwritten affirmations. There were names carved into the wall, including one that stopped her. Breath cold. Kaitlyn M. Just beneath it, Kara M. They had been here. They had lived here. She found the stairwell leading to the basement. The door was cracked, the concrete steps slick with moisture. As she descended, voices flickered in her ears. Not real ones, but memories. Maybe hallucinations. Which one are you today, Kaitlyn? Do you remember who you were yesterday? The basement was intact. A long hallway buzzed faintly with fluorescent light. 5 rooms branched off, some dark and empty. one lit and waiting. Inside it stood a chair, a mirror, and her. The girl turned slowly from the mirror and met Kaitlyn's eyes. Same hair, same face, same scar. But she was smiling like she had just finished reading the final chapter of a book she'd memorized all her life. "You Kane," the other Kaitlyn said. Kaitlyn gritted her teeth. "Where's Kara?" "I am Kara," she said softly. Or rather, I was. Kaitlyn felt the breath in her lungs turn to fire. "You're lying." "Am I?" the girl whispered, stepping closer. "Or do you just finally realize we never knew who we actually were?" She gestured to the mirror. Kaitlyn turned. There were two mismatched files taped to the mirror's surface. One labeled, Subject A, Kaitlyn Maddox, Host, Exceptionally Adaptive. The other, Subject B, Kara Maddox, Original, Unstable Dissociative Transfer. Kaitlyn reached for them with shaking hands. Subject B, Original? Project Switch was never about one girl being better, Kaitlyn, the other said with a laugh. It was about which girl could survive being both. Suddenly, everything clicked. The fragmented childhoods, the memory camp, the indistinguishable behaviors, the emotional tests. That feeling of losing herself from time to time. They had overwritten personalities again and again, shuffled pieces of Kara into Kaitlyn, Kaitlyn into Kara, until one emotionless, blended product emerged. "You were both the experiment," she continued. "But when they decided to end it, they needed just one result." Kaitlyn stood frozen. "So, what am I?" The other girls stepped right into her space, their noses almost touching. "You are what's left," she whispered. "I'm what was taken. You just woke up first." Then she pulled a syringe from her coat pocket and lunged. Kaitlyn moved on instinct. She ducked just in time to feel the syringe breeze past her neck, slicing air instead of flesh. Training she didn't remember having kicked in. A reflex she hadn't learned, but must have been given. She rolled backward, knocking a shelf of files over as she scrambled to her feet. "Sleep, Kaitlyn," the other girl screamed, the voice an echo of hers, and Kara's, distorted by something deeper. "You were never supposed to wake up this much." "Then maybe you woke me up too well," Kaitlyn spat, panting. Her double lunged again. Kaitlyn grabbed a metal stool and swung, connecting with her shoulder. The girl cried out, falling against the mirror with a crack that spiderwebbed the surface. Fragments of both their reflections stared back, shattered, jagged, indistinguishable. No longer was Kaitlyn sure which version she was. But maybe that didn't matter anymore. She backed away muttering, "I'm not chosen. I wasn't built. I decide who I am now." The other girl looked up, blood trickling from her scalp, eyes wild. "Oh, Kaitlyn," she said, "you still don't get it. We are the same. I just got the memories first. I remember who we were supposed to be. One perfect mind, two growing bodies. The project failed when they separated us." "You mean when we became people?" Kaitlyn snapped. "No," she stood slowly, swaying. "When we became rivals." A light flickered in the room. The mirror behind the cracked glass suddenly came alive, displaying security feeds from earlier years. Doctors in white coats watching two young girls do puzzles. One girl, isolated, screaming. Another being praised, then swapped, then tested again. Again and again. Recordings played aloud. Subject A shows stronger emotional intuition. Subject B resists programming. Instability is increasing. Merge attempt failed. Preparing switch. Prepare host. "You were made from the best of me," the girl hissed. "You're my backup, my ghost copy. While I was down underground, forgotten, you got my life." Kaitlyn's throat tightened. Was it true? Was she just discarded code walking in the daylight? Or was Kara lying, twisting the truth like they were always told to? She reached into her jacket and grabbed the vial Mason had sent her just in case, a neurostabilizer. If Kara, or whatever was left of her, had gone rogue, this would buy enough time to restrain her, if she could get close enough. But Kara, or the clone, or the shadow copy, whatever she was already moving. She threw herself at Kaitlyn in a scream of fury. The vial shattered between them. Both girls fell to the floor. A chemical reek filled the air, strong, sharp. Their cells buzzed, reality burned. And suddenly, Kaitlyn's mind fractured. Memories folded like origami. Her first bike? Kara's hand was on the seat. Her first kiss? Kaitlyn was the one hiding, watching from behind a tree. Their argument, before the drowning? No, the switch. One of them had chosen to be the other. The pier, the water, the breath that left her lungs. Or Kara's? Kaitlyn gasped. She was in the water, years ago. And the girl who dragged her out was smiling, whispering, "You're me now." Darkness wrapped around Kaitlyn's mind like a velvet curtain. All she saw before she blacked out was flashing lights, footsteps, Mason's voice faint through a speaker or call. And that damn mirror, its final crack collapsing through the screen like a seam tearing open between two competing realities. Silence. That was the first thing Kaitlyn noticed when she woke. Complete, heavy silence. Not the silence of peace, but the suffocating absence of sound. Like the world had paused, waiting to see who would rise. Flashes blinked through her head. Kara's words, the fight, the vial breaking, the memories colliding. Her own identity slipping between her fingers like water. You were never the original. They cloned us, split us, switched us. She was lying on a hospital bed, her wrist strapped to a biometric monitor. The room around her was unfamiliar. White walls, new equipment, but framed photographs on a desk caught her eye. Two little girls, twins. In some photos, one girl's face was digitally scribbled over. In others, she had been removed entirely. Before she could sit up, a voice came from the shadows. "I didn't think you'd wake up." It was Mason. Tired, pale, changed. She sat slowly, her heart ticking lightning in her chest. "Where are we?" "A decommissioned floor of Ridgeview. I had to pull a few strings and bring in an old contact. Government wanted this place erased, but too many secrets sank into the cement." Her mind still throbbed. What happened to her? Kara, the one who claimed she was you? She wasn't lying. Kaitlyn whispered, "And I don't know if I was either." Mason didn't respond for a long time. Then he stepped forward and placed something in her lap. Two bracelets, old, with faded labels. One read KO1B, the other KO1A. Both had the same last name, Maddox. DNA identifiers etched beneath were slightly different. A 0.03% variation. "I dug through the old Ridgeview records," Mason said. "There were never two twins born, not in the conventional sense. Genetic material from a single embryo, multiplied, separated, then enhanced. You were designed, not born." Kaitlyn closed her eyes. She'd feared it, but to hear it laid out like a science report stung deeper than expected. "The last 10 years?" she asked. "Was any of it real?" Mason nodded slowly. "Real enough. You lived it. You became her. If there once was a real Kara or a real Kaitlyn, they were overwritten a long time ago. The experiment changed you both into convergence points of one shared identity, split by nurturing, circumstance, and control." "So who am I now?" Mason looked at her, kindly, but with a distance she hadn't seen before. "That's the thing. There's no file left to tell us. The programs were destroyed after the first phase. The original architects are dead or off-grid. All that's left is you." Kaitlyn stared at the bracelets. KO1A, KO1B, Alpha, Beta. She tossed them both into the waste bin beside the bed. "I'm Kaitlyn Maddox," she said finally. "And that's not because of a project, or a lab, or even some broken girl who tried to replace me." She stood now, hands trembling and strong, the weight of 2 lifetimes behind her. "I'm me because I chose to be." Mason gave her a soft nod. "So, what now?" Kaitlyn glanced at the door. Outside this room was a life half-lived and half-stolen, but it was hers now, and maybe it always had been. "Now," she said with a small smile, "I stop looking behind mirrors. As they walked out of Ridgeview together, the hallway lights flickered one last time, glitching maybe. But in her mind, it wasn't programming anymore. Just the past, trying to catch up. But this time, it wouldn't win. I hope you enjoyed the suspense, the mind games, and the eerie questions about identity and the self.